Welcome everyone to the Let's Talk Internet Computer podcast. Today, in our episode number 15, we have the pleasure to have with us the founder of Lumos Labs, Kaavya Prasad. Lumos Labs is building a metaverse for builders and Web3 ecosystem, enables to share opportunities to build and scale up. Thank you so much, Kaavya Prasad, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. First of all, as always, I would like to know more about you, about your story, your background. Who is Kaavya Prasad and your past experience in your early years before found Lumos Labs?
Sure. So my degree was in architecture, actually. So I'm an architect by degree. I worked as an architect for about 1 year before I realized it wasn't my cup of tea and I wanted to sort of move on. But design was always my core strength. So I kind of got into digital and graphic design, worked in a couple of startups as a designer, kind of transitioned to UI, UX, and then product. So that's when I decided to start freelancing, and my partner and I back then, Raghu, we started this tiny little marketing firm that was doing, community building online and social media presence for different companies. That's when we came across a couple of blockchain companies at the time. This was back in 2017 when the whole ICO boom was happening, right? So we started working with these blockchain companies, got paid in Bitcoin, and then started researching about, what is all this, magic internet money all about? So we kind of discovered what Bitcoin was, what Ethereum was, what's the technology behind it. And as we started kind of digging deeper into the technology, it started becoming super interesting, the whole decentralization aspect and that whole philosophy that blockchain comes with, right? So we realized very quickly that this is a very big technology and it's going to be the future. And what we need for this technology to kind of go further is developers. So we kind of decided to target, the biggest problem in the ecosystem, which is the scarcity of developers and what we can do to bring more developers into this ecosystem. So that's how Lumos Labs was essentially formed. We started basically running blockchain developer engagement programs with Web3 companies like ICP, like Polygon, like Eternity, and all of these guys. We ran hackathons, accelerator programs for them, and essentially help build a dev community that would use the product or the technology itself. That's how, that's what my journey was, and that's how Lumos Labs was established as well. And a little down the line, we decided to kind of productize what we did to kind of ease out the employees in the company, right? And running a service company is very intensive, human intensive, and you need a very large team to execute it. But if we do build a product that solves for the same thing, which is developer relations, things would get, quicker, automated, scale bigger, and also become global. So that's the idea behind what we're doing right now.
Okay, sounds cool. Yeah. In terms of your background and your experience, you told me like you start to study architecture and focusing more on design and marketing side. How do you think these core skills have served you to help contribute the Web3 industry?
Right. So one of the biggest things in blockchain is community building, and that is a subset of marketing, right? So I've been able to use my marketing skills to build communities, which is what runs companies at the end of the day. Your company is as good as the strength of your community or your network, and that's essentially what's helped me kind of get into it. Me learning the technology was sort of like serendipitous, or the next step that I had to do. So, I started my journey as someone who was into marketing and community building, and then eventually started learning the tech as well. With respect to design and also my architecture background, right now with Lumos, because we are building a metaverse, all of that sort of comes into the picture as well. All the tools or softwares that I learned in college to, build 3D worlds or build cities is kind of coming into use right now for me while I'm building the metaverse. And when the entire NFT boom happened, right? designers kind of came into the forefront, and my design skills kind of help as well. So I've been able to sort of understand the entire movement a lot better, and also build a good brand behind Lumos as well. So yeah, it's been a little bit of everything that's kind of added on and come into what we are doing right now.
Yeah, of course. If you're working in a metaverse, for sure, architecture, marketing, design is something pretty fit for for the project. And yeah, in terms, you mentioned also you started in 2017, your first contact with cryptocurrencies and the blockchain world. I'm curious about your first approach, also to founding Lumos Labs. How did the idea of Lumos Labs come about, and what prompted you to do so? And yeah, how you think about this idea? Like you see like a different blockchain projects, you see maybe like scarcity of developers, and how it was the idea of what prompted you to do so, the Lumos Labs? What is behind the scenes in the beginning of the project?
Yeah. It's sort of evolutionary, I would say, right? So my first stint with blockchain was with this one blockchain publication that was writing about different projects across the globe. And this was back in 2017. So we had like, very old companies like Blue Zell that were coming out, and we were researching and writing more about these companies, right? So that got me deeper into the technology and got me researching more about it, right? And the scarcity of developers has always existed in any new technology. If you see when AI came out, when IoT came out, there was this problem always existed, that new developers need to start exploring this and how to build and innovate within that space. So this has been age-old problem. It's just about implementing it to this new deep tech, right? So while writing about all of these companies and also going through the entire ICO cycle, I kind of, like Raghu and I both, we realized that, hey, this is a big problem to solve, right? Like tech talent pool is always going to be scarce, and if we don't have enough developers, we won't see the technology go forward. So what do we do with the skill sets that we have to engage them and actually build awareness? And that's how we kind of started doing these small programs, right? Everything from running small education camps within Indian colleges to working with Web3 companies or protocol companies to run small hackathons, that would engage the developers. All of this led to the formation of Lumos Labs. At one point, we had so many clients that we couldn't handle it by ourselves, and we decided, hey, let's build a team, let's expand it, and let's actually do this full time. And that's how Lumos Labs began, right? But over the last couple of years, last 3-4 years, running these as services has been very hard. Scaling it is really hard. And also developers tend to get very fatigued by the number of programs that come out, right? So every ecosystem has so many different developer-centric opportunities, and they scout and they find it, then they build and participate. But they can't do all of them at one go, right? There are so many going on in parallel. So over the last couple of years, we saw a couple of gaps in the ecosystem that we thought we could fill with a product in terms of what we were already doing, right? In a sense, with the services, what we were essentially doing is developer relations as a service, right? We were building dev communities for a protocol and then managing them and helping them get onboarded onto that protocol. So how about automating that in a way that makes it easier for companies to manage the developers and also build a pool of developers that the entire ecosystem can use, as opposed to, siloing off separate communities, right? Like Polygon has its own community, Solana has its own community, ICP has its own community. But developers at the end of the day are looking for innovation and different technologies. So they're not particular about what chain they build on, as long as it kind of works with the product that they're building. So we wanted to build a shared community of tech talent that the entire ecosystem can use. With that, also help with aggregating opportunities in the space, which is very scattered right now, and also aggregate dev identities right now, which is also very scattered. Developers have identities across, Gitcoin, GitHub, DevFolio, DevPost, where they win different programs and contests, right? So how about building this one unified developer persona that becomes their on-chain resume or identity that they can share across all the protocols to kind of collaborate or work with, right? So that makes it a lot easier for people to discover each other and companies to discover good talent as well. So with these problem statements in mind, we decided to, build Lumos Labs, which is essentially a metaverse, where on the user end, we have developers coming in and exploring opportunities that the Web3 companies post. So it's a gamified ecosystem where they set up their on-chain identity and then keep building their skills and earning incentives for the same. So instead of, like a play to earn economy that metaverses have currently, we're looking at building like a build to earn economy. So if a developer is building or upskilling, they earn incentives for the same, which would lead to good developers kind of progressing and going up and finding better opportunities. And on the other end, we have businesses that kind of come and set up developer headquarters in the metaverse, where they showcase every developer-centric opportunity, right? Learning, earning, and hiring. These are the three categories we've kind of broken it down into. So learning would be any education program, fellowships that they have. Earning would be, hackathons, bounties, grants, anything that they can essentially earn money with, like a contest that they run. And hiring would be obviously recruitment and jobs that they have. And all of this essentially has a dashboard that the companies can manage, where data like who is entering the building, what sort of skill sets are there, what's the age group, what's the level of expertise. All of this would essentially come into the dashboard that the companies can look at and take better data-driven strategic decisions in terms of what they need to do to engage developers. So this is how we want to, automate developer relations and also build a large pool of tech talent. So it becomes sort of like a LinkedIn on the metaverse in a way, to put it easily. So yeah, that's how the evolution's kind of been over time.
Wow. I didn't know about the evolution of Lumos Labs. Sounds really cool. I love the essential idea because Lumos Lab is like a bridge between universities and like students with the real world, with the Web3 companies, and that's something like that we need in the ecosystem, because exactly there is like a misunderstanding and lack of communication between the side of universities, side of the talent, and software developers, and also with the different kind of projects, cool projects that we are building in the Web3. And Lumos Labs approach and use as a bridge between these both sides, and it's something amazing. And also, you mentioned about it's like the LinkedIn of Web3. It's not just the LinkedIn, because also it's like a universities, because it's learning, also like business about the earnings, prepare different hackathons, grants, and this is something like pretty unique.
Yeah, it's an amalgamation of a bunch of products, I would say, but the easiest way to kind of visualize it would be LinkedIn, that it's a place where people come to find opportunities, the users, and that's essentially what we're doing, but just for developers in Web3.
Okay, and how does Lumos Labs Metaverse works? Because I think Metaverse is like avatars that working in a city or in a place, and how it exactly works, the Metaverse in Lumos Labs. And how manage the connect software developers and person that have talent, ambitious and disruptive ideas. How it exactly, like people or developers create a profile, and then the companies can search these clients or these the software developers. It's like a big metaverse. How it's exactly something. I'm so curious.
Yeah, it's a mix of everything that you just said, right? So I do have a demo, but I think that'll be like a lot to show right now. But just in verbally, right? Developers essentially come on board, log in, create their profile. It has everything from their personal, bio, all the way to their career, contests that they've won, achievements that they've had over time, certificates of, from degrees that they've gotten, or, learning courses that they've done. All of this essentially put into this one profile that is going to be on chain, which is a dynamic NFT linked to their avatar that is going to be in the metaverse, right? So there is a front-end UI that they get to explore, where they have a control panel, they can browse through opportunities across chains or also filter opportunities in a particular chain. Say a developer wants to look at only opportunities that ICP has put out, right? So they can filter out saying, hey, I want to look at ICP learning modules, and they get all the opportunities that the company's laid out in a very consumable manner. They can also befriend other developers, they can chat with them, they can team up with them for hackathons, that sort of stuff, right? So that UI kind of enables them to do all of that, which is a very simple application, right? These exist. Now, on the other end, connected to the UI, you also have the metaverse, where they can go in and engage with the companies that have set up developer headquarters, and also, walk around an exploratory world. We have Tinker Labs. We are partnering with universities to set up, blockchain councils within the metaverse. We are looking at blockchain communities like Developer DAO, Build Space, all of them setting up a little headquarters in the metaverse as well, that can become a place where a lot of developers gather and ideate and work around, right? And tinker, build, that sort of stuff. So there is a front-end UI and also an exploratory metaverse that the developers can explore. And we're kind of keeping it open-ended as to how they want to use the platform. And we're kind of giving them all the options. And on the other end, you have the businesses that have their own login and their own way of customizing every building. So they can, put in their own branding, their logos, any sort of reading material that the developers would find useful, their Git book link, that sort of stuff. Any sort of teaser video, promote any new developer-centric program that they have, all of which is connected to a dashboard that they can manage from the back end. So it's sort of like a 3 or 4 step layered product, right? Like a front end UI, a metaverse, and a back end for the companies, and a back end for us as well. So it's pretty intricate, and honestly, my words don't do justice. And the best way to kind of put it out there is, showing a demo, and we will be out with that very, very soon as well.
Oh, okay. I love that the learning idea. We have in ICP the Definitive Forum is a forum that software developers and IT persons in general can share and have like Q&As with other software developers, with other projects, and this is pretty cool. Also, like as you mentioned, for example, if they have questions about the language programming, for example, in case of ICP, the Motoko or Rust, this is better for everybody, like to learn more and to improve their own dApps, or if they have questions, they can solve in real time. This is something pretty cool. In terms of business and the scalability, how Lumos Labs can be profitable, or how is in terms of business, they charge like a fee or something to the companies or to the new software developers? How is exactly the business side in Lumos Labs? How you think to scalability and
it's pretty
increase?
straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how we've been doing it with services is exactly how we are going with the product as well. So on the services end, we used to take a management fee to run a program with any Web3 organization. Here, similarly, organizations would essentially lease out the land in the metaverse to set up their headquarters. So the fee would be around, the amount that it takes to lease out the land, plus any sort of upselling opportunities within the world, right? Say they want to promote a particular hackathon or a program that they're running to the developers, then we have virtual billboards of push notifications or emails to the community that we have that would be sent out. So it's land plus upselling on top of that for particular programs that we can do. So that is essentially the revenue model within the metaverse.
Okay, and for example, if I have a new project and I would like to start do like a hackathon, for example, in my blockchain, how I can contact with you? Do you have a directly in your webpage?
So we have a website. Yeah, we have a website that you can go on to, and everything that you need to know is on that website. And there's also a place where you can kind of put in your query, what do you want to get out of us, and we'll reach out to you on email or call you back. That apart, you can always email me. I'm happy to help in any way possible. And there's a whole sales team. Alyasa, for example, is always happy to help. So we have all the email IDs listed out on the website as well.
Yeah, okay. I'm curious because I know you are organizing with different blockchains, like large projects, such as Internet Computer or Tesos, Polygon, among others. Yeah, but I'm curious about if other projects, or you invite to everybody to organize and put the job offers or other information on Lumos Lab Metaverse.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share links of
Yeah.
everything that we've got that you could add. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Also, yeah, another question that I have is the beginnings of Lumos Labs. I know the beginnings always are thought. How did is Rahu Mohan, is that the other co-founder? Yeah. How did Rahu Mohan and you, the rest of Lumos Labs team, convince angel investors and venture capitals to bet an investment in the beginning was 1.1 million? That's correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
founding on the project. How it was how you convinced the business angels and VCs to, hey, this is that big project. We're building something pretty unique, pretty good, and how people like trusting in Lumos Labs. How it was the beginnings.
Right. So first off, Raghu co-founded Lumos with me, but he's no longer with us. He's taken sort of an advisory position. And he runs this company called Builders Tribe, and you should definitely talk to him. They're into incubating Web3 startups. So he started up all over again. But in terms of how we raise funds, it's been luckily very straightforward for us because we've had a track record of running these service-based programs, right? Running hackathons as a service, running accelerator programs as a service, and education as a service. We've been able to gather a good community of developers, and that is the biggest step to building a dev-centric product, right? So for us, essentially going to investors was basically saying, hey, we're doing whatever we're doing, but at a product level through a metaverse, right? And, as soon as they understood our approach and realized that the business model isn't very different from what we were doing as a service business, but we're just looking to scale and go global. It was sort of easy to convince investors. And also on the other end, because we've run so many accelerator programs, we've been connected to so many investors that they've become friends over time, right? So reaching out to them again, saying, hey, that we what we do, our track record, we are sincere people, and invest in us and you won't be disappointed was not very hard to do. So we got really lucky because we were in the space long enough to be able to build those relationships and then go after them for investments. But if we were starting up brand new, the story might have been a little different.
Yeah, okay. And what Lumos Labs brings to the industry, to the blockchain industry, is impressive. What is your vision of the company in the long term of growth and expansion, maybe for next 3 years? You think Lumos Labs now is one of the big part of the Web3, right? But in the future, how you think is going to be growth and in terms of expansion in Lumos? Now you're focusing in all around the world, more in Asia, India, or also in Europe and America?
So we're global from day one. So we did start from India because, it's the closest to home and it was easy to build that community. But now we're looking at outside. So right now we ran a global hackathon and ICP was part of the, larger track sponsors as well. So we've been able to gain about 15% global audience of developers as well through this hackathon, and we don't want to stop at that, right? We want to go global. So the idea is to expand globally from day one. But in terms of future vision, right now we're focusing on just developers finding opportunities in this metaverse, but I don't see why we can't expand this to designers, product managers, community folks, marketing folks, and everyone that would essentially add to the crypto or the blockchain ecosystem, right? So I'm looking at this becoming a place where people come to find good talent, and for users to come and build their on-chain resumes and scout for good opportunities. So I see this expanding into every possible opportunity in Web3 kind of laid out here, and people from all walks and all streams kind of coming in and exploring the product itself. But post that, eventually I want this to be like a R&D center, right? We are finding the best of the best in every facet or every function of a potential Web3 company. So if we are able to get the best to kind of team up and build products, right, innovate and research and build bigger things, I see this becoming like a place where you can find the best researchers, the best academicians, the best business folks, and the best founders. So this becomes sort of like an R&D center where people come and find the next big innovation. So I want this to be like a global virtual R&D center in the future, maybe 10 years down the line. That's a much longer vision, but close to like 5 years, I would say I want to expand beyond developers and look at other facets as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Web3 is a huge space, and we need to cover and improve a lot of areas. And Lumos Labs can cover more or less all the areas. And yeah, that's amazing. And in terms of the difficulties, what are the most obstacles or difficulties that you encountered so far? And what is the room for improvement? For example, do you think that the gap and disconnection between developers who traditionally deploy their applications on the Web 2 and founders of the blockchain projects on Web 3 is still very large, or now the distance is short and the approach between both sides are better? And yeah, in general, for Lumos Labs, what are the difficulties during this journey?
Right. Well, there are difficulties like in every aspect, I would say. Let's start with the product, right? So in terms of the product, I think, are very, very new to the market, because this is something that hasn't been done, right? We've seen metaverses that have been used for entertainment or social gatherings, or education, workplace gathering, that sort of stuff. But we've never seen utility-driven metaverses that have a singular objective for a user. So this is like a new, paving a new, series of metaverses that could come into the picture, right? Like that is a big challenge, kind of getting people to envision what we are envisioning, because it's so new and people haven't seen this before. So that is one challenge. The second thing is, I think we're also very early to the market. So again, VR headsets are already, very expensive, very chunky. We're not there yet in terms of hardware. So going VR and completely immersive is going to take us a little bit of time, right? So currently we're looking at a browser-based metaverse, but that doesn't give the entire appeal of living in a 3D environment. So infrastructure advancements need to be made before we are able to, have this mass adoption of metaverses itself. Other than that, obviously, even with the browser-based metaverses, hardware is a big constraint. Depends on who has what sort of hardware. Do they have a good enough GPU to render the kind of visuals that we are kind of building for them? Do they have good internet connectivity? So these are challenges that we need to kind of overcome, and we need to figure out ways of solving. And obviously, companies are solving that for us, but it's about figuring out a temporary solution till we get to that point, right? So that's a couple of things on product. The second thing on community, right? As you mentioned, there is definitely a big gap between the larger pool of developers and Web3 companies. So right now, I would say there are about 300K developers that are conversant with Web3, and and every company out there, every blockchain company is going after the 300K. But I think the bigger problem to solve is actually getting the larger pool of developers to actually explore Web3, right? So the Web2 folks, which is the larger piece of the pie, coming into Web3, which means we need to go all out on education. We need to go all out on evangelism and awareness building for these developers to come in. So that is a huge challenge to solve as well. And in terms of, company itself, I think fundraising, even though I said, we closed it and we did this through our friends and, we knew people, it was still a very, very hard task. And it took me 4 months to do it. So that was definitely a challenge to overcome. And, the upcoming fundraisers are going to be hard to close as well, especially with the market. So these are a couple of challenges that we're faced. But at every step, we've always figured out a way to overcome it and find a work around everything that we come through.
Okay. Yeah. Just my last question. Um, before finish the interview, what advice would you give to people who want to undertake in the blockchain sector and still don't dare to take the step to fear to failure of the unknown ecosystem? Like people maybe want to have new ideas and want to build something cool, but they don't have the go farther and go to the next step because they have fear. What is your advice? Because you are also a good entrepreneur. You start from scratch a big project, and now you're successful. In terms of entrepreneurship, not just Web3 or blockchain, just in general in the business model and business personality that you have, what is your advice for people like are thinking to do something in blockchain space?
Right. So this goes for everyone, right? People who are trying to find a job in blockchain or start up in blockchain. The first step is to actually put yourself out there. A lot of people second guess themselves and not actually do it because they think they don't have the skill level that other people do in the space. But the only way you can, cross that barrier is if you try, right? You have an idea that you want to start up with. There are many support groups, and honestly, Web3 is the most inclusive community I've ever met, right? Everybody's there to help. There are DAOs that exist that help people kind of get to the next level. So I would say just, take one step in and try to, put yourself out there before you decide that this is not for you, right? And there's always a place for everybody. You're a developer, you're a non-developer, you're a designer. There's a place for everybody in a blockchain company, because at the end of the day, even though the underlying tech is blockchain, the company runs like a Web2 company. You do have a marketing function, you have a design function, you have a communication function, you have a tech function. So you need all of these functions to run the company end to end. So everyone has a place. It's just about where you start. And there are a lot of DAOs that can help you start, kickstart your career journey within Web3, right? So join one of these DAOs, start contributing to these DAOs, earn some incentives, and this will give you good exposure and experience to kind of take it to the next step and see what you want to do later, right? And otherwise, there are traditional ways of doing this where you apply for opportunities and go through interviews and join a company. But the idea is to kind of put yourself out there and not get overwhelmed, right? And obviously, read as much as you can, learn about the space, learn about the technology. That's the most important thing that one can do. And the more knowledgeable you are about the space, and the more you know about the technology and what the industry has going on, the better suited you would be for any company out there. So yeah, that's basically my advice. And honestly, that's how I did it. It's just that everyone's journey is a little different.
Wow, yeah. Good advice and tips from Kaavya.
Thank you.
I think people and the audience appreciate it. Thank you so much for staying with us today, Kaavya, to share with us all your knowledge and how is Lumos Labs doing things. I think now people know more about your project, about Lumos, and I wish you the best for the next year, 2023, and in general on the long term, because Lumos Labs are rocking it, and this is one of the best projects on the ecosystem. I'm so proud that Definity and Internet Computer also have a good partnership with Lumos Labs, and I think we are going to grow together on the ecosystem and be stronger in the future. Thank you so much for staying with us today. The best for the future.
100%. Yeah. Thank you so much for the conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Great. See you soon. Take care, Kaavya.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.